our brassicas are all on the ground: cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli, Brussels sprouts. The next thing I want to get in the ground are our onions. So we're going to do that a couple different ways here. First, these are our onions. We started these from seed back in the end of January, and we're going to separate these out and put these in the ground. And then I bought these at the local farm and garden store. So there's two different ways that you can buy onions to put in the ground to grow. Either by starts, those are plants that have been started current year, or sets, and they're the ones that look like baby onions. And these are ones that have been started last year, and then this is their second year, because onions are technically a biennial. They'll grow for 2 years. From what I've found, you have more luck with storage from the starts than the sets, because since this is their second year, they're done. So it's kind of, they're not really interested in hanging around longer because they've completed their life cycle, whereas these guys haven't done their second year, so they're more likely to store better. So I'm going to break up the soil with my garden weasel. Yeah. I really like this tool. I've switched to doing pretty much essentially no-till. So I'll just pull mulch off, and this morning when I was planting plants, like bigger plants, I just used a small shovel and planted them. Since this one I'm going to be planting kind of like rows, and I like to be able to make the row with my hand, I'm just going to break the surface with this. We'll get some onions in the ground. pots in, the 2 pots that had the most onions in them. So we've got about 60 in. Realized I need to stop digging with my fingers because I'm going to end up with so much crud under my fingernails they're going to hurt tonight. So I switched to the shovel. So what we're doing here, show. So here's one, it's not quite as many. So I'm carefully just kind of pulling them apart. All the soil ends up dropping off, and so I've got my plant with my roots. So I want to make sure I've got all the roots down in the soil pretty good. I don't want them poking up like this. I don't want them kind of close to the surface. So I want to make sure they're down in the bottom of the hole. Probably going about that far apart, maybe a little bit further. I'm hitting probably 10 to 12 across this bed per row going this way. So these roots down in the bottom of that hole there. That crabapple, yeah. There we go. So we're going to keep doing that with this clump of onions. So gently pulling these guys apart, being as gentle to the roots as possible. Keep in mind they're pretty tough. There we go. So we have those laid out. Here's our first one. So tempting just to use my fingers, but like I said, I'm ending up with so much crud under my fingernails. They're gonna hurt later tonight. So again, the thing I don't want is I don't want the roots to be coming up like this, so that if some of the soil washes away that they're exposed. So I'm trying to get those right nice down in the bottom. And there we go.
Say yes to music, or are you talking?
I was talking. I didn't hear you. I'm almost done. And then, I don't know if you saw me going around this plant. This is a mustard plant, mustard greens, that made it through the winter. And I'm just going to let that blossom, throw off some seeds, save the seeds. Then I'll probably just cut that off so I don't disrupt the onion roots. April 18th. And I just came out to the garden because I'm trying to finish my starting onions or planting onions video. And I needed a little footage of everything being planted. I have this little bin right here. It's actually a flower box or something like that, but it's a fantastic place to like set my tools, or sometimes I set a glass of water. This is a glass of water that I accidentally had left out there. So that's how cold it is. Frozen solid. We're past halfway through April. Look how beautiful the magnolia and the cherry tree are back there. It's stinking cold right now. So I'm going to show you a couple things really quick. And my butt's going back inside, hopefully with a hot cup of coffee. So one of the things I had been showing was planting our onions. And I wanted to show you what they look like right now. I wanted to show you what our brassica bed looks like. I don't think in the last video I even kind of pointed out that I planted my Brussels in a different spot. So I wanted to just show you a few things, and that'll be the end of this video. Okay, so this is the first bed of onions that I planted. We've got about probably somewhere between 80 and 100 onions in this bed. And I'm always very good at getting things labeled or written down what's where when I first start planting things. And then things get shifted around, and I have to be honest, there's like 3 or 4 different kinds of onions in here. I've got no idea what's what. We'll be able to tell better once it's planted. And then down here, I just showed a little bit of this. These are, so I have one row, actually half a row of the onions I started, and then I had, I'd purchased some onion sets from the local farm and garden, and that's these right here. Now I was starting to get tired and running out of space on Friday when it was beautiful and we were planting. And I did start planting them a little thicker. You can plant them in clumps of 3 or 4. So I did one row here. These are getting pushed out a little bit, but I'll tuck them back in there. So I have clumps. This row is like all like clumps of 3. Here's my Brussels sprouts. I tuck these over by the side. I got no footage of this, but around these, which you won't be able to see yet, I tucked the red onion set that I had purchased. Sometimes I'll just pick up some sets, not for storage, but they're a little bigger to get started, and so they're a little bigger once they get started growing, and I'll use them earlier in the season. So those are kind of the onions that I'll plan on using for cooking through the summer, as the ones that I have started from starts. I always switch that when I go to say it. So the ones that I have that are the starts, I'll let them grow to full size, and those are my plan for those is to go to. It's cold out here. And then this is our bed of brassicas that was in my last video. Gabby and I put the netting over once the wind had settled down. We actually just did it yesterday on Sunday. So onions are in, brassicas are in, and the next thing is potatoes. Once your dandelions start to blossom, that's an indicator that your soil is to the correct temperature. So we need to figure out where our potatoes are going, and those are going in the ground as soon as we get a break.